Hey guys, Eddie back with Couch Talk. Welcome back to the show. If it's your first time with us, welcome to the show. Guys, please hit like, please hit subscribe, put those notification buttons on, and strap in and get ready for the ride because today we've got a monster. Today we're going to talk about intelligent design. How rare is life? How rare are human beings? Is our genetic code just some random string of letters that happens to have occurred because of a series of random evolutionary processes, random chemical interactions? Or did we get a little help along the way? That's what we're here to talk about today. Imagine you're walking down a beach and you're shell hunting. You're looking for these cool shells. And you spot something glinting in the sand. You sweep the sand away to reveal a wristwatch. Golden Rolex. Well, you look at this Rolex and right away you know that it's not natural. You know that somebody designed it. And how do you know that? Because it's very specific and very complex. As a matter of fact, even any one of the little gears inside the Rolex probably is enough for a human to know that there is an intelligent mind behind it. Much less the collaborative grouping of all of them together working in such a fashion as to tell us the time, the day, everything that a wristwatch community tells you a lot more than that if you know how to use it, you know. That's the concept of intelligent design. Now, our genetic code is a sequence of 4 different letters, A, T, G, C, right? And they have to be arrayed in a very specific manner, very precise. And scientists have recently mapped the genome and they found that it's analogous to like a computer program, basically. A series of informations that tell our body how to structure our cells, how to structure our organs, how to structure our body, you know, what color eyes we'll have, what color hair we'll have, how tall we'll be, how strong, how fast, all these things. Of course, you know, gives us potentials. Now, I won't tell you exactly how strong you'll be because a lot of that is environmental, but you get what I'm saying. So all these things are determined by this very specific line of code. And not only is it a very specific line of code, but it's very long. Very, very long, very complex line of code. And I think the human genome has, what, 3 billion base pairs? Now, let's put that in context. Now, if you were to start typing random letters on a typewriter or a keyboard, I know typewriter. I'm dating myself there. But for those of you who don't know what a typewriter is, keyboards, right? So if you were to start typing things on a keyboard, just start typing random letters, the odds that you'd end up with a word in fairly short order, especially a small word like a, and, the, these words probably will accidentally come up relatively fast. Now imagine trying to come up with a Shakespearean sonnet on accident. You're not likely to ever accidentally type a Shakespearean sonnet. Just don't have enough time. If you had enough time, sure, right? If you continued typing and you got your friends to type with you, in fact, Matt, if you got the whole nation of America to start typing random letters and you continued typing for a septillion years, maybe one of you would accidentally stumble on a Shakespearean sonnet, but there just isn't enough time. Just isn't enough time in the world, just isn't enough time in the universe to have accidentally stumbled on something that complex. And a Shakespearean sonnet is nowhere near 1 billion characters. Nowhere close, right? The genetic code that we have is complex to the point of billions of base pairs, right? Billions of pairs in a very specific sequence. And not only that, not only just our DNA, but there are actually higher orders of ordering of information that tell us even more things about where cells are supposed to go as they talk to each other, as they kind of like as the cells are multiplying and splitting and they start rearranging themselves. It tells cells which cells are going to be, whether they're going to be liver cells or, you get the point. There's a lot of information that is communicated, and every time that we have traced this kind of information back to a source, that source has been a mind. Every time we've looked at a computer program, well, there's really obviously only one thing that could have made it: a human being, an intelligent human being, a mind created it. And human beings are the same way. As a matter of fact, all life is the same way. Now, I want to talk about the difference between complex and specified, right? So specified is something that communicates information, right? So a word is specified, but it's not particularly complex because it's just not very long, right? It just doesn't have that many different combinatorial possibilities. And something like a lump of granite, well, that's very, very complex. There's got tons and tons and tons of atoms in it, but if you look at those atoms, they're not in any particular arrangement. I mean, of course, there's some arrangement, there's some specificity to it, but not enough to indicate that an intelligent mind created it. If you look at genetic code, the specificity and the complexity is beyond measure. It is nuts. And I'm gonna put some of my sources below. I'm gonna discuss. There's a guy named Dembski who put together a calculation to try to quantify just how rare a life form is. And basically, I'll go ahead and cut to the chase and tell you that the short version is, even if life tried a different possibility every nanosecond since the birth of the universe, and we know that's not even possible because, first there had to be a cosmological evolution, right? First, galaxies and stars had to form, and then planets had to finally accrete, and then finally, after the geological evolution on individual planets took place, then, only then, could possibly a biological evolution of any sort take place. And then, but even just for that to have occurred, even if there was a try every nanosecond since the birth of the universe, the odds that we would have randomly stumbled on even the most simplistic forms of life are vanishingly small. So small so as to be technically impossible. I forgot, there's a combinatorial term that indicates how small the odds of something have to be before they're impossible. I forget exactly what the term is, but technically this falls within the realm of impossible. In other words, it is so much more likely that something designed us than that something didn't. Like I said, I'll post all my sources below. Stephen Meyer is a good person to look at if you guys want to learn more about this topic. But one of the things I wanted to talk about too was that most people say that this is a pseudoscience. It's not actually a pseudoscience in my mind. I want to talk about the reason why. Because we have lots of different sciences, and there's some natural sciences, some sciences like biology, chemistry, physics. These are things that you can test in an actual lab, right? Like you can actually do a physical test and achieve an actual result. But this, intelligent design and the origin of human beings and the origin of life is more like a forensic science. It's more like a historical science. In the version of historical science, in cases of historical science, when they, for example, if you were to bring a dead body to a forensic analyst, and they're going to say, well, this person probably died of a blunt force trauma, probably like a hammer or a baseball bat or something like that. Well, they don't know exactly what they died of. What they can know is most likely what it died of, right? Because they look at all the information that's available and they infer the most likely result, right? So that's what this is doing here. Intelligent design isn't it isn't a natural science, it's a historical science. So it's looking at all the information available and infers that the most likely situation is that we were designed. Not that that we know first, because obviously, we go back, 13 and a half, 14 billion years ago, we didn't watch the universe take place, right? By the same token, we know that, that we think that there's a big bang, but we didn't actually see it, right? We're gauging based on the information that we've got available what the most likely option was. And that's how we kind of communicate the historical sciences. That is how intelligent design is context is taken in. Also, another critique of this theory is that it's unfalsifiable. Well, I don't believe that that's true either. I think that we would be able to falsify it one of two ways. One way to falsify it would be to find a natural process that creates a sequence of information that is as complex as DNA in an undirected way, right? So if you could find something that just kind of randomly occurs that creates information at that level, that would be a very good way to falsify the concept of intelligent design. Another way to falsify it would be to prove that the combinatorial resources of the universe were greater. For example, one way to disprove it would be to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, multi-universe theory, right? To prove that every possible option that could occur does occur. So far, there's a couple of indications that there are other universes, but there is no indication that the universes out there are infinite or that the combinatorial resources we have are infinite. And until we do that, the intelligent design is not really falsifiable in that manner. But I think the easier way would just be to, find a process that does it naturally. Even within the confines of our universe, which would be the context in which this theory would take place, you would still need to utilize the resources that we have available to produce a randomly occurring sequence of specific information that is so complex. Like the threshold that DNA exists is way beyond anything that has even remotely been put together by a random facet. So guys, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know if, I'd love to see somebody challenge intelligent design. I'd love to have a great, big discourse on it, a big debate about it. This is one of the things that has caused me to believe in God, but it doesn't have to be God. Insofar as the theory goes, it doesn't require that it is specifically a God that is doing the designing. It doesn't talk about what does the designing. Could be an alien. One of the things I thought was funny when I was looking over this is that Richard Dawkins, he's kind of like hates, of course, the idea that, God could ever possibly come into it, but he doesn't discount the possibility of a sufficiently advanced alien doing the designing. And I'm like, well, if you don't have a problem with a sufficiently advanced alien doing the designing, then what's your problem with God? Because, one could draw many lines between a sufficiently advanced alien would look like a god to us, right? And the magic, would any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? The Arthur C. Clarke. But I don't know why one is okay and the other isn't. I think there's this pervasive thought in science to try to create this naturalistic only explanation for everything. I'm not sure why, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it. Please post your comments below. I'd love to get into it with somebody, really talk and share ideas with us on this idea, on this concept. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll hit you back next time on Couch Talk.